Many people are worried it could be a sign of what's to come at the G8 and G20 summits. That May 18th bombing of a Royal Bank branch in Ottawa. Now 3 suspects have been charged. The CBC's Jeff Semple has the details.
Video of the firebombing was posted online just hours after it happened. An improvised explosive device ignites and 2 men can be seen running from the bank. This morning, police announced a break in the case.
I'm very pleased to bring this portion of the RBC arson file to a close, and I firmly believe Ottawa is safer today than yesterday.
Police had promised arrests were coming, but the identities of the suspects have taken some here by surprise. Charged are 58-year-old Roger Clement, a former federal government worker, 32-year-old Matthew Morgan Brown, a well-known political activist who's been arrested in past protests, and 50-year-old Claude Herridge, a respected engineer.
But my concern is that the evidence seems to point at police involvement and, in fact, police provocateur involvement.
The anti-establishment group behind the attack and the video originally threatened further action, citing the upcoming G8, G20 meetings as possible targets. But police say everyone involved has been caught.
Originally, we were told that 3 individuals were caught and charged with this act or with this crime, and later, in a less prominent way, we were told one of them was charged with something unrelated and let go.
Police raided Herridge's West Ottawa home yesterday and found hundreds of rounds of ammunition, including some used in sniper rifles and machine guns.
Both types of ammunition could be used and would be considered quote-unquote military type ammunition, so certainly that is alarming to us.
So there's 2 people in jail, 3 people picked up and charged, 2 people remain in jail charged with that crime, and 1 was released and has no related charges. So the fact remains is that we don't know who this 3rd person is. And I asked around and I was told that this 3rd person was an undercover agent by the name of Francois Leclerc. And evidently he was an agent that went undercover 2 years ago. According to the Sun and the Citizen, he went undercover to gather information leading up to the G8 and the G20. And I was also told that he was picked up with the other 3 on the day that they were all arrested, and that he was also charged, but that he was released the next day and left town. And now the police have made a statement that everybody involved has been caught, done deal. You know, they sewed it all up based on this excellent police work that took them a month to track down the culprits and whatever. And then I started to speak out about, not mainstream media of course, but the real news. I made several statements just asking, who's this 3rd person? If it's not Francois Leclerc, who is it? And I made a formal complaint to all relevant authorities. I addressed it and I sent it out last Tuesday, and I was complaining that we don't have all the information, and complaining that this has an appearance as though the police were directly involved. And I was also concerned that the 2 individuals that were charged were not getting due process. One of them has never had any arrests, charges, anything, and yet he didn't get out on bail, and that's impossible. Based on Canadian law, there is absolutely nothing to base his continued incarceration on. Serious crime, yes, but that's where large bail amounts get imposed and lots of conditions. We don't keep people who have no prior records in jail because they are innocent, according to our system, until we prove they're guilty. And if we have nothing negative to draw on from their background, we're not supposed to leave them in jail. So that bothered me. And then I started trying to investigate and find out more about this Francois Leclerc. And I thought, since I was told that he'd been charged, maybe there's some record of him at court. So I went to the courthouse on July 9th, and I asked if there was any court appearances coming up for Francois Leclerc. It wasn't in the system. So I asked the clerk at the criminal counter if he runs another name of somebody that's jointly charged, would it show? And he said yes, he could tell. So I asked him to run the name of Roger Clement, and also Matt Morgan Brown, who are the two people that are charged with this arson bombing. They weren't in the court system. And that really alarmed me, because you can't have due process if people can't support you, they can't represent you. And previously I also was disturbed by something that's since been corrected, that one of the individuals anyway, was isolated. He wasn't getting visits, no one was taking his phone calls, and because it was being blocked by a few individuals. That's been since rectified. And also, after my email complaint went out, very shortly after, same day basically, the court called me unsolicited and said their next appearance was on the 16th of July, and that they were now in the computer. So some progress has been made. And as well, on July 15th, the Ottawa Citizen and the Ottawa Sun reported that yes, indeed, there were policemen embedded in that operation, but they deny that they were directly there when the action occurred. But they said that this undercover agent was there 2 hours after, and was able to determine the getaway car, exactly where they buried the laptop that they used to upload the video, and whatever other information and evidence they needed. He was just able to just ascertain it like that. But he didn't know anything about it before, and he didn't participate in it. He just suddenly pops up out of the blue 2 hours later, and they tell him everything, you know, and it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Still unanswered questions. We still don't know who the third person is, because the police are denying that Francois Leclerc was the third person, and Roger remains in jail. So I want everyone to watch the court case coming up for the bail review for Roger Clement, which will be on July 30th, and make sure that his lawyer brings up the fact that he has absolutely no previous experience with police whatsoever. He's 58 years old, no charges, no convictions, no arrests, nothing. And he's also got a reputation of being nonviolent and gentle and generous. That's how he's perceived by all his friends that have known him for years. So as many people as possibly can, I would like you to watch and make sure that Lawrence Green's fund brings that up in court, because if that's not brought up, the Crown could still keep him in, because it's not on the record, the necessary item's not on the record, and then he could be in there for months or even years unconstitutionally, because he doesn't have an appropriate defense. One final thing, I would like people to do their research, do their homework, find out what went on at the G20, and join that campaign for an independent public inquiry. And not just an independent inquiry, as one of my friends pointed out, an independent public inquiry, because you don't want one group to just take all the evidence and go behind a closed door somewhere and come out and say, oh, there was no wrongdoing. We need to see what evidence they are using to base their decision on, and we need to know that they're considering all the evidence that's there, and it's pretty hefty. Like there's videos, there's snaps, there's personal testimonies collaborated by witnesses, and just you name it. There, as far as I'm concerned, it's a wealth of evidence out there. So we need to get that into a proper framework and have it looked at. And I would also like the RBC bombing to be looked at as well, because the connections have been made by the authorities between that incident and the G20. So I think it also should be looked at for potentially being a police provocateur situation.